Hello, everyone out there in ATL Sports Land. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are having a very special occasion tonight. I'm here with a very good friend of mine. You may as well call her family. Her name is Sheree. I call her Ray for short. And tonight we are talking about the movie Sinners. Uh, if you haven't seen it, you need to go check it out. It is right now the number one movie in America. And we're going to take about 45 to 60 minutes to just talk about this movie. Ray, how you doing tonight?
I am so good, Terry. I'm blessed. I'm feeling good. I'm waiting to let you know what I think in regards to sinners, and we can come to like some type of consensus. And my feelings may be a little different than yours, but don't hate me.
Ray, I could never hate you, my friend. We've worked together for 8 years. You've been to my house several times. You're like family, and I
Yes,
love you,
sir.
and I could never hate you. And the beautiful thing about art is it's subjective. So where you may see something, I could see something else. We do have some folks in the chat. We got DSGB Hall who says, perfect timing, just left the movies, laugh out loud. DSGB, that is great. And look, hey, if you want to chime in with how you feel about the movie, feel free to as well. So, hey, Ray, let's get to it without further ado. The name of the movie is called Sinners. The date of the movie is actually October the 16th, 1932, in the deep South, Mississippi. That's right. M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I, Mississippi. Three of the main characters. You got Smoke and Stack, played by Michael Jordan. They are a set of twins. They are originally from Mississippi. They grew up. They were in World War One. They became soldiers. They left. I guess it wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for soldiers who specialized in killing. So they joined the mob in Chicago, and they were working for Mr. Al Capone. And when the movie starts, they are coming back home to open up their juke joint. In the first scene, we see Smoke and Stack together, and they share a cigarette as they are waiting on the current owner to come and sell them this plot of land with this building, which is going to be their juke joint. Ray, let's talk about how you felt at the beginning of the movie as it opens, and just give me your thoughts on that.
So,
Ray, you there? You cutting
can
out. You
you
cut
hear
out. I'm
me?
sorry. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
All right, sorry about that.
That's okay.
When it first came on, I think the settings they were great. I liked how they introduced everybody. Going through the town. Bringing everybody in and things of that nature. Um, Overall, to me, it was great. Right.
Okay.
I didn't have any, complaints in regards to the introduction. I was all in. I was ready.
Okay. 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 What's interesting is when the movie starts, Smoke is wearing the blue uh uh shirt, okay,
Mm-hmm.
with the vest, and Stack is wearing red, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, blue, from what doing my research, was the color of Hank's, okay, or at least the pattern that he's wearing, and not that he was a Hank. A Hank is essentially, for lack of a better term, a demon. We'll get into why that's important as we go on, but Smoke is more the spiritual base to them, right? So there's a set of twins. Smoke is more the spiritual one. Stack is more the one of the world, and this will
Okay.
play out more as we get into it. But of course, Stack is wearing the red suit with the hat. Stack is also a pimp, okay, or as he's referred to.
Okay.
And like I said, Smoke is more the spiritual one of the two. But it's a great
Okay.
scene. The movie starts as they share a cigarette, and what's important about this is I don't think this has ever been done where you have a person playing themselves and they're passing something to themselves. Doing the research, they had to shoot this with a robotic camera about a million times. there was Michael B. Jordan and a stunt double or a body double, and they essentially transposed the film. But looking at it, it's seamless. You don't even think about it. And to be honest with you, Michael B. Jordan does such a great job of playing this set of twins. You forget it's one person playing them because they have two distinct personalities. Now, here's what stood out to me in the first scene. So the current club owner arrives, and I'm sorry, we got to do a little housekeeping. We got my guy A1 from day one. Chris says, "Yo, yo, what up, Chris? How you doing?" We also have Jordan, another friend of mine that I podcast with. Jordan says, "Sorry, I couldn't be there, y'all. Storming here. Love Sinners. Gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Sixth favorite movie since 2020. Kugler doing great as always. Michael B. Jordan, as always, is one of my favorite actors. Thank you, Jordan, buddy. And hey, man, wish you could be here." So the owner shows up, right, Ray? And he says, "Hey, y'all twins?" And Stat says, "Yeah, we cousins, right?" Now let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Why do you think he did that, Ray? Just give, was he being funny or was there a reason he did that?
I think it was more so. I mean, it was one. He was being funny, but he was also, because they always say we look alike.
Yeah.
So I think he was, it was along that line. But I also think he was being funny, for us.
I do. I think so. I also think because the twins have this reputation for being gangsters, I think they might be on the run from Chicago. So he
Okay.
doesn't want to show up and tell this guy, "Hey, yeah, we're twins," because the first thing you do, they're here. You know what I mean? So he's probably doing it as a way of hiding. You get what I'm saying? No, we're not twins. We're cousins. Now, to your point, it does kind of play on that stereotype of, yeah, we all look alike. But I think Mike is doing both there. You get does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they go on. They have this interaction. They go inside, and he says, "Hey, y'all clean these floors." And the owner says, "No." No, he said, "Yeah, we cleaned them." And then he says, "The more y'all talking, you guys are making me think like you're not ready to do the deal." And he calls him a boy. And Smoke says, "No, we got grown men money." And that says, "And we got grown men bullets." And they begin to circle him. And the first thing that jumped out to me about this scene, Ray, is how they move together. You obviously see that they're warriors. They've been to war because of the way they circle him. You get what I'm saying? And he feels it too because he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean any disrespect." That's just how we talk, right? Let's go on. We'll get back to them in a few minutes, but let's talk about Sammy. Now, Sammy is really the protagonist of the movie, and it's really about him. Sammy is a guitar player, and the first thing they tell you as the movie opens is that there are certain people who musically are so gifted that their music can transcend time and space. In other words, it acts as a conduit for spirits from the future and from the past. And we'll see this play out as we get into it. But Sammy has this beautiful voice, right? And the movie opens with him in the field. He's picking cotton. He goes home. He's going to get his guitar. I think he lives on a plantation. And essentially, it's 19. So a lot of folks are picking cotton. That's how they make their money. They have a certain amount that they have to pick for the day. He's done his rations for the day or whatever. He goes home to get his guitar, and his guitar is not there. So he goes to church to see his dad, right? Ray, you're a Christian. You've been raised in the church. I've been raised in the church. And we know that there, since I can remember, has been this dynamic of secular music versus right? And this is true here. So Sammy goes into the church to get his guitar. He tells his dad, "Hey, Dad, I finished my rations, for the day. I'm getting ready to go out." And his dad says, "Hey, son, I wanted you to come in here. Yeah, I brought your guitar here, but I wanted you to help me to deliver this sermon tomorrow." And he opens the Bible.
Yeah.
Give me what you thought about that. Give me your feels about this scene and their interactions.
So I mean, I feel like in the scene, Sammy, he he has learned. He has a lot still to learn, but he has learned a lot, or learned a lot of information from his father. He respects his father. He
Yeah,
looks up to his father, but he still has his own way of wanting to do things. So even though he came in and he gave what his father was asking for, it was nothing extra in regards to it.
yeah,
But he was able to speak this information without really even needing the Bible. That's why I showed him closing the Bible, like, okay,
yeah,
I'm done. I've said my just in regards to God. Now I'm about to go and basically do me, and hopefully the same way I can respect you and your wishes and your God. I hope you respect what I'm about to do now. I want to just
yeah,
go and have a little bit of fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
That
think
was my take.
no, that's spot on, Ray. And what I really liked about
Mhm.
that was that his father gave him the room to do it, right? Because his father could have been like, "No,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
forbid you." He didn't. Now he says to him, "Hey,
Mhm.
you keep going to the devil's gonna follow you home." But he doesn't
Yeah.
stop him from going. And I think this is important. Look, my mother was a pastor, and she used to make me read
Mhm.
scripture. And I can remember us having exchanges just like that. And then I'd be like, all right, mom, well, I got to go. And she'd be like, all right, boy, at a certain point, you're going to have to make a choice. And I'd be like, yeah, mom, okay, whatever. And I'm out. Right. But it was the same feel. Like, he's like, Dad, I got to go. I'm ready to get in these streets.
Mhm.
I'm ready to play this music. I got to go. Um, but I think you're
Mhm.
spot on in regards to the respect between, because he clearly respects his father, clearly
Oh
adores him,
yeah, most definitely.
and his father respects
Mhm.
his choice as well, right? Because there
Mhm.
are some parents that just kick him out and be like, well, if you're gonna do that, then you can't be in this church. You got to go. He doesn't do that, and I think
Mhm.
that's gonna come back into play later. But
Oh yeah,
I
most
like
definitely.
that about that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And it's key for his father to allow him to spread his wings and do what he sees as okay or good, because once that happens and he gets out here in the world and he starts experiencing things, all of
Yeah.
the information that his dad has told him over the years will play in the back of his mind, and
Yes.
he'll know how what his father was saying wasn't something trying to control or make him do these things. It was just trying to give him a path to follow.
A roadmap. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. So he's picked up by Smoke and Stack, the twins. And one of
Mm-hmm.
them says, "All right, don't worry, we got him. We'll take care of him." And the first thing they ask him is, "Hey, does he beat you? Is he fair to you?"
Mm-hmm.
No, he doesn't. And the reason they do that is because Smoke and Stack were twins, but their mother died in childbirth,
Mm-hmm.
and Stack was the second twin. And I guess you could say he caused his mother's death, or that may have led to it. And so it's inferred that the father always had some sort of resentment towards Stack, right? And he would beat him,
Mm-hmm.
which is why the first thing they ask Sammy when he gets into the car is, "Hey, does he beat you?" Because they want to make sure he's okay, right? Now we'll learn later on
Mm-hmm.
that Smoke actually kills their father because his father just kept beating Stack and was about to kill him, and Smoke was defending him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into that later. So they hop into the truck. They're on their way. They go to the spot and they have to speak up because the club owner that met them originally was late, right? And so they
Mm-hmm.
come on the scene. They remove the cloak from the truck, and there's a rattlesnake there. Now, this to me is foreshadowing because it's a warning of treachery to come, right? And what
Mm-hmm.
is that it takes them both to kill it. Snake Smoke gets on
Mm-hmm.
one side, Stack gets on the other. I think Stack passes his knife to Smoke. Smoke kills it, throws the snake away, and says, "Look, we got to split up. You know, I got to go here, you got to go there." And Smoke says to Sammy, "Hey, I need you to watch his back because he doesn't know how to watch his own back. So I need you to make sure he's good." In other words, Stack doesn't take stuff seriously. Smoke clearly is the more down to earth, you know, rooted one.
Mm-hmm.
Stack, you know, can kind of be all over the place. So he says this to him, and they leave, and they go. Smoke goes about his journey. Smoke goes into town, and Smoke meets up with the store owner. And give me one sec. I kind of lost my train of thought here. Oh, I closed it. Okay. Anyway,
What?
uh,
Okay.
Smoke meets up with the store owner who he knows from back in the day, and they recognize each other. And he says, "Hey, you know, we're having a party tonight. You know, we're opening up a juke joint, and we need some items, and we need some folks to come cook for us, and we need a sign." And of course, the business owner goes to get his wife. Um, and you know, right as they're getting into it, well, before that, they hear a commotion and somebody's trying to rob his truck, and of course, Smoke comes and basically deals with both gentlemen, shoots one in the posterior, shoots the other one in the knee, and says, "Look, I can't have my reputation ruined out here by you guys trying to rob me, so it is what it is." Anyway, do me a
Mm-hmm.
favor. Let's talk about that exchange. Let's talk about how he's talking to the store owner. Give me your thoughts, your impressions on just that exchange.
Um, so when it comes to him speaking with the store owner, I mean, I don't know. It seemed like to me with the store owner and their communication, it was just more so introduction into letting us know that this guy was from the past and he may have like ran with them or he hung with them. Him and the wife must have been great friends. But I mean, like as far as or maybe he left him behind to go out on his journey. But I really didn't I get that the husband and wife must have been like almost like high school loves because they
Sweethearts.
had the kid
Yeah.
evidently before leaving because Smoke was able to speak to her being, I think her name was like
Right.
Lisa or something like that. So
Yeah.
he
He
was
said,
able to
"Little
speak to
Lisa,"
her
or
like he
something
knew
like that.
of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I don't know if maybe in the past they were the individuals that had access to things. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
because he could go back to the store and receive, or he
Right.
knew he could get these different things, they
Right.
must have had access to whatever
Right.
was
Right.
needed.
Yeah. They were
What
known
else?
gangsters in Mississippi. They were known because I mean, obviously, you can see the first thing you ask him is, "Oh, y'all hit big," and he was like, "Yeah, we did, but not in the way you think." Right. Which again
Mm-hmm.
kind of suggests that maybe they robbed some guys and they're on the lookout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did hit it, but not in the way you think. And he turns around to look to see if anybody's listening, and he doesn't really get into it, right? Which lets you know, however they got it, they don't want it out there as to how they came about these refunds,
Mm-hmm.
right? They
Yeah.
don't want it out there. So okay, yeah, we go on, and that stack in the city. Um, I'm sorry, that's Smoke. So Smoke leaves there. He goes on to see Annie, who is his former love interest. They had a child together. The child obviously passes. This is in the
Mm-hmm.
30s, so a lot of times people didn't really have money to go to plots in churches. So her burial ground is right on the property. He walks up to it, and what I thought was so endearing is that's the first thing he walks up to, and he says, "Papa's here," right? And you see the baby's
Mm-hmm.
little footprint, and she comes outside, and they start to talk, right? And we got to do some housekeeping
Mm-hmm.
here. Hey, Mike. Mike says, "Fellas, what's going on?" A1 says, "Yeah, Smoke didn't like that." Carlo, Monte Carlo 82. What up, Carlo? Yo, what I missed? We're just talking centers tonight, man. So Annie comes out and she starts talking with him, and he's been gone for 8 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing she says is, "You guys back?" And he says, "Yeah." And she says, "Oh, what's bringing you back?" And they're like, "Oh, we're buying this juke joint." And she says,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh." He says, "Well, how'd you get the money?" Right? Because she knows them. And she's obviously thinking, however you got it, it's probably nefarious. You probably robbed somebody. You did something to get this money. And he
Mm-hmm.
kind of sidesteps it, right? And then he comes
Mm-hmm.
on into the business with her. She's got this little house, and it's a storefront. But at this point now, Ray, we gotta talk about the juxtaposition or the stare and compare to Christianity to Western African religion, which is broadly comes in the face right here when we talk about Annie. Annie is what some folks would consider a witch, a voodoo priestess,
Mm-hmm.
what have you. But they go into the store. There's some little kids in there. They purchase something and they hand her this currency, but it's more like a coupon because it's not actual currency. And from what I'm told, a lot of this went on in the early 20s and 30s. Again, you're talking about the post-depression area. A lot of folks didn't have money, but they had these coupons, and it was a way to barter, right? Can you
So I
speak
mean,
to
so this wasn't like, was this like a food stamp type?
it? It wasn't a food stamp. It was
That's what
more
I
so
looked at
like
it.
a gift certificate to different stores. I guess it maybe worked in that circle, right? In
Mm.
Mississippi, maybe on that plantation, it was, considered some sort of credit or bartering system, but they didn't have cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he says to her, "Look, you're going to go out of business because Smoke, first and foremost, is a businessman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stack pimp, Smoke is the businessman." Carlos says it was plantation money because they were showing blacks real money. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Carlos. So he says to her, "Look, you can't do anything with that money. Let me give you some real money." And she says, "Look, I don't want your money because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, it's blood money and I don't want it." And he's like, "No," because he's trying to give it to her because you can see he cares about her. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? He cares about her. He wants to take care of her, but she's like, "No, I don't want your blood money." And he's like, "I've been all over the world. I ain't never seen voodoo. I ain't never seen witches, but you know what I have seen? Power. And you know what makes power? Money." And she's like, "Well, how do you know that the reason that you've been all over the world and you've been able to come back from the war is because I hadn't been praying for you using the very stuff that you criticize?" And this kind of touches his heart a little bit. And he kind of
Mm-hmm.
softens up in that moment, right? And he says, "I thought about you, I missed you, you know what I mean? And yeah, if you want me to say it, yeah, I love you." And they hug and they embrace and make love or whatever. And then I guess they
Mm-hmm.
decide, she's going to come with him because she's going to help prepare the food for the night. So they leave. Now we got to get in the Stack, because Stack is a wild boy, man. Stack is wild. So Stack is wild, man. So Stack and Sammy go into town and they meet Delta Slim, who is an alcoholic, or as my grandmother would say, a drunk, because alcoholics go to those meetings, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's sitting there on the stoop, he's drinking, and they give him a donation or whatever, and he's like, "I thank y'all." And he looks up and he's like, "Oh, what did Chicago winds bring me? Like, what did the Chicago winds bring my way?" And the reason
Mm-hmm.
this is so important is because Stack knew exactly where to find it. So
Mm-hmm.
clearly he's been there for a while. You get what I'm saying? Stack knew
Mm-hmm.
exactly where to go and where to find him. And they start talking or whatever. And he offers him, he says, "Hey, why don't you come play the juke joint tonight for $20?" And he's like, "I'll pay you $20 a night." He's like, "No, you ain't gonna pay me $20 a night. You'll pay me $20 tonight. But I got this other spot that I'm going to where they pay me every week, and I get my corn liquor and I'm all right." And that's all a sinner like me needs. right?
Needs.
That's all I need. That's all I need. And you see him, and he's clearly older, and the years have been cruel because his obsession, and to a certain extent, this movie is about obsessions, right? His obsession is liquor.
Liquor.
Smoke's obsession is obviously smoke, aptly named. Sammy's obsession is music, right? And so there's another layer to it. And so what Dustat does is he pulls out this beer, right? And all of a sudden Delta Slim
His
just lights
temptation.
up, right? He's just, you can see his body language change. He's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like that scene in Batman where the Joker says in the Batman from 1988, clutch the pearls. What is this? Fail. He's just like, right? He's like, what's that? He's like, oh, this Irish beer. And just as he goes to drink it, Delta Slim's like, now hold on now. Let me see some of this. And he takes a sip of it, and it's so good he has to pause, right? He can't speak for like a second. He's got to pause. And Stack says, I got 500 of these, which you can have access to as many as you want, plus $40. And at that point, Delta Slim is like, sold. So now Delta Slim and Sammy, right, their younger cousin, the musician, start playing music. And there's this young lady who catches Sammy's eye, who's beautiful, and walks up and she sees him play. But there's also another young lady who could pass for Caucasian. I think she has some sort of mixed heritage, but she appears to be Caucasian, and so she passes. But she hears Stack's voice, and she turns her head. And once Sammy and Delta Slim stop playing, they're like, all right, you can come see them tonight at the juke joint, blah, 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 blah. They're all excited. And she walks up on them. And during this time, especially in Mississippi, it was illegal for a black man to be seen talking to a white woman. So they have to approach this very carefully, right? So Stack says to Sam, go over there, keep playing, don't say anything. And Mary, who's the young lady's name, says, Stack, I waited for you, and you never came back to see me. And he's like, and I wasn't going to come back. She's like, Stack, my mama just died, and I didn't see y'all at the funeral. Now, the importance of this is Mary's mother took care of the boys when they were younger, because remember, their mother died in childbirth. So Stack and Smoke and Mary have known each other since they were babies, right? They were, you could say in some instance, they were raised together. And he says, look, you know what I mean? It's not proper for you to be here. You know you're married. And, she's like, I waited for you, and you said you were going to come back. And he was like, well, I didn't. And of course, we didn't get your mother anything. That's right. We used her, because he's trying to get rid of her so she doesn't get in trouble. He's protecting her. And she's like, rotten hell. And he's like, I will. Right. And then he says, but I'll save a room for you. Now, again, Ray, when she says rotten hell, this is foreshadowing. You and I know why. We'll get into that later. But when he says this to her, when she says rotten hell, she really doesn't know what she's saying, because she doesn't know the events to come. But it is, again, Ryan Coogler foreshadowing their futures, right? So they leave. They go. They got Delta Slim with them. They're on the road. They pass this group of prisoners who are singing a cadence as they're breaking these rocks. And he says, hey, and he gives them this message. And then all of a sudden, one of the, I guess, wardens or prison guards fires off a gun as if to say, y'all better leave. And so they keep driving. They drive on, and they say, hey, did you know any of them? He said, I knew all of them. And he tells the story of how he and this band, and particularly this friend, were, doing something one day. They got caught by these white groups of sheriffs. They said, hey, play some music. They played some music for them, and the sheriffs got the idea to take them on the road. And they take them on the road, and they made a whole lot of money. And one thing about this scene that was poignant is he says, these folks talking about Caucasians, they love our music, but they hate us. No, he said they love our music, they
Mm-hmm.
just don't like that we played or something like that. Again, foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he talks about how his friend was, they got paid a lot of money. His friend was going to take his money and open a church, right? But he made the mistake of pulling out all of his money in front of this person to buy a ticket. And of course, they told some folks, and the Klan robbed him and lied on him and said that he killed this person and raped their wife, and he was hung right there. And it kind of
Mm-hmm.
just the justice system back then, and how you really didn't have a leg to stand on. And so,
Mm-hmm.
as he's thinking about it, he begins to hum. And the importance of this, Ray, at least in my opinion, is that not only does Delta Slim drink to forget, but he also sings to forget. Because you can see in
Mm-hmm.
that moment, he's clearly in pain, right? But he begins to hum and sing to numb the pain. And Stack recognizes
Mm-hmm.
that and says to Sammy, "You got a guitar, don't you?" And they begin to play music. So then they go and they pick up Omar Benson, who's affectionately referred to as Cornbread. And Omar Benson is a big dude, right? Big dude. So Stack, and we just see how braggadocious and brash Stack is. Stack says, "Hey man, why don't you come over here and make some money with us? You ain't gonna make any money out there in the fields." And he's like, "Hey man, I'm not going with y'all. I hadn't made my quota for the day, and blah 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 blah." He said, "F your quota." Hey man, I'm in front of your wife. He's like, "Hey man, F your wife." And he's like, "What?" Now he's getting ready to come over there and really whoop. He about to whoop Stack's ass. And Stack says, "Hey man, you about to make so much money that I'll just put it this way: your wife is gonna do certain things that you never thought before. She's gonna really love you." And Cornbread says, "Boy, I'm about to beat the bricks off you." And the wife says, "No, no, no, hold on. How much money we talking?" And Stack says, "Now see right there, that's a good woman." And all of a sudden, Cornbread joins them. So now you got Cornbread, Delta Slim, Sammy, and Stack all in the same car. They're on their way to the juke joint. Of course, Smoke and Annie are on their way to the juke joint. They all arrive, right? We all got the
Mm-hmm.
backstory. They're setting up. They're playing the music. Everybody's having a good time. And in walks Mary. And as it was custom during that time, you had folks at the door. And so Cornbread's at the door. Cornbread doesn't recognize that Mary is Mary. So he's like, "Hey ma'am, are you sure you're in the right place? Are you sure you're supposed to be here?" And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, I'm supposed to be here. If you don't get out of my way, Cornbread." And Cornbread says, "Little Mary," and he hugs her. So that lets you know
Mm-hmm.
Mary knew a lot of them in that circle, right? So of course he allows Mary
Mm-hmm.
to and so Sammy sees Mary. Sammy says, "Hey ma'am, we saw you at the station. I don't think it's a good idea for you to be here." And Mary literally says to him, "Boy, if you don't shut the F up." But the thing that's interesting about it, Ray, is that Mary kind of code switches here, right? So you know how
Say
there's
that one more time.
Mary kind of code switches, right? In other words, her dialect changes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Her dialect becomes
Mm-hmm.
more southern. It becomes more, well, the affect it would be that of an African American tongue. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
clearly
Mm-hmm.
she's able to fit into both worlds, right? Because if
Mm-hmm.
you close your eyes when she says, "If you don't shut the F up," you'd swear the person talking is black, right? You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So
Mm-hmm.
and I think Kugler does this to say she lives in both worlds. She's comfortable in both.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, she recognized him. She says, "Little Sammy, are you there? Let me come buy you a drink." So she buys him a drink. Uh, uh, Smoke recognizes them. Remember, Smoke is with Annie, Stack is with her. So Smoke's come over. Smoke doesn't want in trouble. He says, "Annie, what's going on?" She says, "Well, y'all used my mama. Y'all didn't come to her funeral. Y'all didn't even have the decency to send her flowers." And Smoke says, we sent her plenty of flowers while she was alive. Okay. And then Stat comes over and Smoke says, hey, man, you gonna handle it? And he says, I'll handle it. So then they finally have the interaction. And he says, look, I know I sent you off to get married to this Caucasian gentleman, but I did it because I wanted to protect you. Because if anything happened to them, if any white men saw you and killed you, my brother and I are gonna kill this entire town. And she says, you'll. And he says, yeah. He says, if you want the truth. And he takes his hat off when he speaks to her. He says, look, I love you. And I thought about you every day. And the only thing I ever wanted for you was for you to be safe. And this touches her. And she starts to cry. And what's important, what Ryan Coogler is showing is that these guys have been gone, but the connections that they have with these women are deep, right? These men, they weren't the kind of guys to just be out there just randomly dealing with women. They clearly love these women, and these women clearly love them, right? All right. So we move on. Sammy starts to gets ready to play. And Delta Sim says to Sammy, hey, before you start playing your whatever, tell him who you are. And he says, I'm Sammy. I'm a sharecropper from such and such plantation. And I'm a preacher's son. That's why they call me Preacher Boy. And this song is about my daddy. And Ray, let's just talk about his voice for a second. Give me your thoughts on how you felt the first time you really heard him sing.
It was very, very, very. It was very touching. Like his sound was nice. I think he did a great job. Performing. I'm not sure if they use some type of what do you call it when they use even though he's speaking or he's doing the lips.
Right.
Was it something else playing in the background or just what? Yeah. Or was this really him? But like I said, it was good. The tunes were impeccable. I think he did a great job.
He did, and he's actually a singer. His name is Miles Caton, I believe. But he's actually a singer. But beautiful voice.
Very strong.
Yeah, very strong. Now, Ray, we got two options. We are right at the part to where it goes from introducing everybody to action. Now we got two choices, Ray. we can get into what we liked and what we didn't like about it, and then we can finish the story. Or we can finish the story and then get into what we liked or didn't like about it. As you are my guest, it's your choice. What do you want to do?
So we could talk about what we liked and then going over into the rest of the story.
All right.
I think that'll be so. Like when I was watching the story, everything that you were explaining in the beginning of the story, the cast abilities to act, all of that. I think they did a great job. I think the scenes were great. I was impressed with all of it, right? The way they did the blending of the films and stuff like that, as far as the different genres coming together, I thought that was a very unique take on it. It's not something that is just seen on a normal basis, but I felt like kind of like something was left out, like the plot, like it was feeling a bit like unfocused to a certain degree to me.
Okay.
It was like I was just needing some more, and it was mainly once the part that we're not speaking about just yet, the end, when the action was supposedly about to take place, is when I just felt like, okay, I was expecting a whole lot more to take place in this movie. What else? You want to say something in regards, or I can keep going.
You can just give me a sec. So Michael says his voice was pure blues, and it was. And Carlos says that talks in real life. Miss Carrie, one of our producers from our show, our producer from our show, Says hi everyone. You all having a great weekend. I cannot wait to see Sinners. I think I'm finally seeing it next weekend. Well, I can't wait, Carrie. I hope we don't give you any spoilers tonight. Let me tell you something. Miss Carrie is the greatest producer in the world, and we just love her.
Hey, Miss
Carrie,
Carrie.
for joining us. All right, so now go ahead. Hey, talk your talk, Ray. Let's get into it. That's why we're here. So let's go. I'm gonna shut up and let you cook. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I also felt like the movie struggled to me with building the momentum in some of the parts. Like it was just kind of slow. I was, still expecting more. So, say for instance, in the portion that we're going to speak about in a minute, Cornbread was in the woods, right? He has to go and release himself. So
Right,
he left the door. So you see, they keep playing a lot of significance to this door and how it has to be protected or whatever.
right,
So he leaves the door to Slim. He goes into the woods. He's doing his business. And I thought it was comical how he kept going, but he was being interrupted by these sounds in the background.
yeah,
Which, like I say, it was funny. But then once it was supposedly where the vampire or the creature was supposed to be attacking him or doing whatever, taking his over his body.
right,
It just disappeared. So that's where I felt like more could have been done. Like it built up to this
right,
certain aspect or this certain point, and then it just fizzled out. And so I felt like it was lacking, right? When it comes to it was a scene with Sammy when he was with the vampire, and this was when he was in the water. Everything okay?
I banned the. I was trying to kick somebody out. I kicked the wrong person out. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. Keep going. I'm sorry. I'm gonna reach out. Keep going. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay, okay.
Oh wow. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So
Go ahead.
something that kind of caught me off guard was when this was towards the end, so I might be jumping, but Sammy was in the water and he was face to face with the vampire, the I guess the head vampire you want to call it, and he started praying because, like I said, he's remembering what his dad has instilled in him and taught him and things of that nature. So now he's going to his prayers to try to bring in this godly figure to help him in what he's facing. But then when the vampire starts praying right along with him, and then after the prayer is over, he starts dipping him in the water like he's baptizing him. It just
Right.
felt kind of blasphemous to me, right? So I could have done without that part.
Right.
What else? I would have liked to, even though this had a lot of spiritual or godly content. It was on the as far as the trailers and things of that nature, they made it seem like it was going to be a vampire type, film. So I was just expecting to see more of that in the film.
Yeah.
Like even when they were in the juke joint and things of that nature, I just wanted to see more. Um, I'm gonna quit talking and let you uh, say some stuff in regards to
No,
what you think as
I
far as what
get
I'm
it.
saying.
No. Right. First off, Ray. No opinion is a bad one. Okay. Because
Say
art
it
is
one more time. It broke up.
no opinion is a bad one.
Hmm.
So art is subjective, right? So I'm gonna go back to specifically what you said because it's interesting you say that.
Hmm.
I went back to see this today. This is my third time seeing it, and there's some things that jumped out to me, right? So I
Okay.
think that Kugler does not show Cornbread getting bitten. He also doesn't
Hmm.
show Mary getting bitten.
Mary. Hmm.
He also doesn't show the initial racist home he doesn't show them getting bitten. Why? Because at this point, Remick is an experienced vampire. So he does it so quickly and it's so subtle that most folks wouldn't see it. Notice, and we'll get into this, that when Mary bites Stack, it is vicious. Why? Because she's a young vampire. She doesn't know what she's doing, right? And
Okay.
I think this is why Coogler chose to do it this way with Remick, because Remick is thousands of years old. So at this point, this is nothing new to him. Him biting somebody is like you or I waking up in the morning just not thinking about it. It's nothing to him, right? It's not a
Yeah.
big, right? And I think he also does it for an element of mystery, right? Because as Mary walks away from him, we don't hear him. We just begin to ascend into the air and fly, and then it goes away, right?
Yep.
The next scene, we see Mary coming to the juke joint, but there are no visible scars, right? Why? Because Remick has been doing this for thousands of years. Even when Cornbread bites the guy or whoever that was outside the club, he devoured him. Why? Because he's a young vampire. He
That
doesn't
makes
know.
sense.
You get what I'm saying? He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as the prayer is concerned, I can see your point. I can see your point, and I'm not going to debate that one. I can see your point, and I can see how you can see it that way. What I think what I think is happening, because there are two things that are happening, right? One is he says the Lord's Prayer, and Remick says, "Yeah, I know that one. They said that when they came and took my father's land, right?" Which is essentially saying he's essentially saying Christianity was forced upon him as well, right? And being that all the vampires are of a hive mind, they're all linked to him, they all start saying the prayer as well. And my initial thought was, oh my God, Jesus, what's going to happen? But I tell you what's interesting, right? What is interesting about it is, though, even though the prayer itself in a lot of people's mind didn't work, you know what it did, Ray? You know what it did? It distracted him long enough
Enough to be able to hit him in the face.
for Smoke to sneak up behind him and kill him. So some would argue, well, maybe the prayer did work, right? Maybe the prayer did work. Maybe, right? Before the prayer was even prayed, it was known by the entity that we worship that, hey, this guy just needs a little distraction. So maybe the prayer did exactly what it was supposed to do, which was to distract him. Now, again, I wasn't a fan of that exchange either, because it is reminiscent of baptism. But I can also see another side. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? All right.
Yep.
So let's get back to the and again, Ray, and to anyone in the chat, whether you loved it or hated, we just want to know, right? There are no wrong opinions. This is all subjective. This is all art. There are no wrong opinions here. So let's get to it, right? So they're in the club, you know what I mean? And Sammy begins to sing, and his voice is booming. And what was interesting about that scene, right, is we begin to see characters, or well, you tell me what you thought when we see the break dancer, we see the African tribe playing, we see some folks twerking, we see some folks that are clearly from different timelines in this juke joint. What's going on in this scene from your perspective? What did you think when you saw this?
So I mean, I was saying like, we're in my mind sitting there at the time. I was like, are these supposedly ancestors? Are these supposed to be spirits? Were these the sinners of the world at these different times? that were all, together. Because, when it comes to the club life or the juke joints, that was considered the sinner's dwelling place. So it was like, were these the individuals that were partaking in those such sins of drinking and bumping all over each other, in those times. But in each scenario, they had their type of music that they were listening to. So Sammy may have been from a
Yeah,
blues
yeah,
era, but now you have
yes,
all of the different
yes. Stay
sounds.
right there, Ray. Stay right there, because I swear you called on to something, right? Stay right
Hmm.
there. Don't go, because a lot of people didn't catch that, and that speaks to your detailed eye, right?
Hmm.
Let me tell you something. There were hidden elements to that music, and they were spirits that were there. Because notice nobody interacted with them, right?
Hmm.
Why? Because they didn't
Hmm.
see them. They didn't see them, right?
Hmm.
And you said something else. You spoke to the music within the music, right?
Hmm.
Let me ask you this question, Ray. And I don't know about you. I know I've experienced this because, as my brother will tell you, I'm this kind of person. And when I give you the example, you'll know why. I'm the kind of person that can hear a song 100 times. Like when I love a song, Ray, I love a song. Oh my God, Ray, when I love a song, I love a song. There's this song by Gucci Mane, called Little
Hmm.
Friend. I made my brother hate it. Eric, shout out to you wherever you are, brother. I love you. And I'm sorry. I made him hate this song, Ray. Literally, I listened. When we went to bury our grandmother, I listened to this song all the way down. Now we rode from Atlanta to Mobile, which is about 6 hours. I
Oh
listened
wow!
to that song all the way down and all the way back. When my
Oh
brother
wow!
dropped me off, he said, "Hey man, take the CD. I don't want it. I don't
Like,
want
don't
it.
leave it.
I don't want it. I don't ever want to hear it again." But and here's the reason I bring it up, right? When you listen to a song, let's say you love a song, right? And you
Hmm.
listen to it for a lot, and then you leave, and let's say you come back a month later and you listen to that song. Have you ever experienced where you heard different pieces to that song that you didn't hear before when you listened
Oh
to it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what you're referencing when you say there are different components to that music. So while Sammy's singing, there are different components that speak to different spirits. Now, remember, at the beginning of the movie, they say that there are some people whose music is so pure that it acts as a conduit, right? Or as a bridge,
Hmm.
or as a tunnel, right? Or a path for spirits to travel to and fro, right? Let me ask
Hmm.
you, have you ever heard anybody sing and it just stopped you for a minute
Oh
and
yeah,
you couldn't do anything? Who are those
yeah.
people for you, and those in the chat? Who are those people for you? So give me at least two folks that the first time you heard them sing, there had to be a spiritual component to it. Like it stopped you.
So Patti LaBelle is one. Like I when I was younger, I was in what, maybe 11, 12, in the car, in a van on the way to Disney World, and I literally was laying on the floor in the van, and my mother and them had this song playing, a Patti LaBelle song playing, and I literally was under this the because it was a let out bed, under the bed, crying. I was in my own moment, but the song was touching me so much that it was resonating to my spirit. So I, did whatever I did. But yes, Patti LaBelle, and then I had a great friend by the name of Elvis Hyde, who he was a producer, and he used to create uh, music using just instruments, no words at all. And every single time I put this one song on, and it
Yeah.
was what was it called? Something dance. I can't remember dance. Something dance. But every time I would put the song on, I would instantly start crying at what I was feeling just from the sound, no
Right,
words. So I mean,
right.
I guess I was able to create my own words in my mind or whatever, but it just hit me, you know. So
Well,
yeah, I completely understand what you're saying.
I think the music connected with you. So for me, it was Mariah Carey. The first time I heard Mariah Carey's voice, I was like, "Oh my God, who the hell is that?" And there are a
Mm-hmm.
couple of songs that she has that just they do it to me. And then the other one was Whitney Houston, right? There are a couple of songs that
Okay.
Whitney has that just they go through me. One moment in
Yeah.
time,
We need to.
one moment in time that she did at the Olympics, and then there's one that she did. It was a remake of Dolly Parton's song "I Will Always Love You," and it goes through me. It literally goes through me. And
Mm-hmm.
I bring that up to say that this is what's going on in this scene as Sammy's having his coming out to the world party and he's playing this music. These folks are losing it because it's going all up and through them, and his voice is
Mm-hmm.
bellowing and carrying so loud that guess who hears him? Remick hears him, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing about Remick. While Sammy has the ability of music, right, and the talent and the power, so does Remick. But Remick
Mm-hmm.
is a vampire, which means his soul is trapped in his body. But when Remick hears Sammy singing, he's like, oh, I can do something with this. Because remember,
Mm-hmm.
as a vampire, when he turns you, your memories are now his memories. You can communicate,
Mm-hmm.
and his memories are your memories. And it's kind of like this hive mind thing. So it says to himself, if I can get Sammy, I can connect to my ancestors, right? And so in this scene, we begin to see that the club is burning down. It's not physically burning, but from the
Mm-hmm.
view of the vampires, they can actually see through the building because the music has burned everything to the ground, and everything in that domicile, everything in that building is now raw, and the vampires see everything. They see the spirits, they see everyone in their state. And I think this is what, to me, this is what they're saying in this scene is whenever you have a gathering and the music is so high and the spirit is so high, you see something like this. Now I've experienced this twice. Once was in a church where this young lady got up to sing and everyone was standing in unison, clapping their hands, and you could feel it. You could feel it
Mm-hmm.
go through. I don't know what was going on, but you could feel it. The other time was myself and my daughter. We went to this thing in Atlanta called For Sisters Only. I don't know if they do it anymore, but anyway, at the time, Party Like a Rock Star was out, and there was this sea of people, and that song was on, and I've never seen so many people move in rhythm and shake and dance and clap at the same time. And there was something going on, right? And I just bring it up to say that in this moment in the movie, this is what's going on. And this is when Remy
Mm-hmm.
decides to approach, right? Now, if you know anything about vampire lore, you know that a vampire just come to
Can't
your
just
home?
enter. They can't just enter without being welcomed in.
He's like the devil in that way, right? He can't just come in.
Mm-hmm.
You got to invite him in, right? You have to invite him in. So, Remy comes up to the door or whatever, and Cornbread says to go and get Smoke and Stack, and they come, and he's making his plea, and they start singing their song to say, "Hey, we're musicians. We want to come in. We just want to experience what's going on." And they're like, "Nah, bro, nah, you can't,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, you gotta go." So they roll out, and Mary and Stack are having a conversation. She's like, "What's wrong, Stack?" And he's like, "Well, all of these plantation folks are paying with plantation money, and pretty soon we're going to go broke if they don't start paying with real American money." So she's like, "All right, well, look, they're white. I can pass for white." She doesn't say this, but this is what she's
Mm-hmm.
inferring, right? They're white. I can
Mm-hmm.
pass for white. They'll talk to me. They'll be open and honest with me. So if they really have money and they're not about that BS, then I'll know and I'll go get him and I'll bring him back. And he's like, and she's like, I got this. And this is her way of making sure that her man is good because, again, she loves this man. She loves him. From the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, he loves him and he loves her. And so he gives her a gun and says, all right, be careful. So she goes on the road to see them and they're singing this song. And the song, and what's interesting about this is that before Remick turns the two people that are with him, which were essentially this Klansman and his wife, they didn't have Irish accents. You get what I'm saying, Ray?
Yeah, they did.
They were this is Mississippi. They didn't have Irish accents. You know what I mean? They were kind of talking like this. You know what I mean? But in this song, they are all singing it with an Irish accent. So it suggests that not only do you have the memories, but you also get this person's talent if they transform you into a vampire. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Did you notice that initially when you saw it?
I did not know. You just, and I've seen it more than one time. And you pointing that out, now I reflect back, and you are right. They were not singing the same way they were singing, or the same way they sound when they answer the door. That's crazy. I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah, it just because I'm looking at it today and I'm like, because as a matter of fact, I don't know his name. I keep calling him the Klansman, but he's singing in a perfect Irish accent.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, okay. All of a sudden he just became Irish, and then it's okay. So his talent becomes your talent, and your talent becomes his talent, and there's this hive mind thing going on, which I thought was kind of cool. We got to do some housekeeping. So Michael says the baptism symbolized the renewing of his contact to me. Monte Carlo says he was explaining to him that he did the same thing when he was being turned, but actually his prayers worked because he killed him with that guitar, which saved his life. And he's right about that. Michael says the music binds the past to the present and shows how we are still doing the same thing now, but expressed differently. That is a good point, Mike. Carlos says Sammy's gift is why Remy was there and was the portal to getting back to his people. And that's correct. So she comes down to sit with them, and they begin to weird her out because as Remick is saying things, the lady is repeating everything he says, and you kind of get the picture like these guys are like one organism. Like, what the hell is going on? And it creeps her out. And the first thing she says is, "Do y'all have any money?" And Remick gives her this gold. But the more this conversation goes on, she's creeped out, and she's like, "I tell you what, leave me alone. I don't need your help." Pulls out a gun, begins to walk away, and of course, Remick begins to fly into the air, and we don't see it, but we know he got her. We know he got her, right? So now she comes back, and this is brilliant on his end because Mary is trusted. So nobody's going to bat an eye when she's like, all right, let me in here. Nobody's going to think anything of it. So they do. And the first thing she does is she goes to Stack. Now, she ain't seen Stack in 8 years. Okay? Stack is her boot thing. She is his boot thing. So she's like, hey, Stack, come on over here and for lack of a better word, let's go do this thing. I'm not going to say what she said. You have to see the movie for that. But it was quite a line. Okay? I must admit, my cheeks were a little red. I was a little embarrassed. I was with the missus the second time I saw it. And she laughed, but hey man, she dropped a line on that brother. So they go in there, they get to doing what they're doing. There's a card game going on in the background. Somebody's cheating, somebody cuts somebody. Smoke gets up to stop it, and he says to Sammy, "Go and get my brother." And Sammy's going in the room, and he says, "Hey," he asked Delta Slim. Because mind you, Cornbread at this time had gone to use the bathroom as we referenced. He says to Delta Slim, hey, where's Stack? And he says, oh, back there. And he opens the door and Stack and Mary are going at it. They are going at it. And he closed the door and Delta Slim says to him, oh, were they busy? Kind of like a joke. And Sammy's kind of like new to the world, right? So he like runs back in and he says, I went to go get Stack, but he was doing something. And you know, wait, yeah. Smoke
That's
says, I
when
don't
it's
give a damn. Smoke says, I don't give a damn. You go and get him. And Sam says, I'm not going in there by myself. And so Smoke says, all right. So then Smoke comes back and he opens the door and what he sees is totally different. So Smoke sees Mary, for lack of a better word, feeding off of Stack, and there's blood everywhere. And she stands up, and this was funny. She says what everybody, whoever gets caught in the bed with somebody says, it's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like. And so he just, man, he bam, 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 right? And he's in shock. And he, as he gets ready to go over to his brother, she gets right back up and she said, we're going to kill every one of you. And runs at him and runs by him. And people are like, oh my God, oh, what the hell? And of course, unfortunately, Stack dies, or we think he dies. And Smoke is jilted and they kick everybody out. And now it's Annie, Grace, the store owner's wife, uh, Sammy, Pearline.
Sammy.
Pearline is the married woman that Sammy got busy with. We didn't really get into that, but you can check it out. Delta Slim, Smoke, and I think I'm forgetting one other person. But anyway, they're all in there. And they're like,
the Korean, the lady's husband from the store.
No, he walked out. He walked out. Remember?
Not yet. He hasn't. He didn't leave out yet.
That's right. That's right. That's okay. So that as a matter of fact, he's the guy that like kicks everybody out and says, "Y'all got to leave."
Right. And then the other guy who face was sliced. He was in there as well. Remember, he was the one in the kitchen.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So they begin to piece what's going on, right? And she says, look, baby, we got to go. And he's like, no, we got to be here for them. And she was like, no, we got to go. We got a daughter. And he says, I'll go and get the car. And so he goes to get the car or whatever as everything goes on. And they begin to talk about what's going on, right? And in the midst of it, Cornbread comes back. Now, Cornbread is at least 6'7". This is a big dude, okay? This is a big cornbread eating dude. He is huge, okay? I do not want to get into a fight with Cornbread, man. I would need some weapons. Like I just, that's a big dude, okay? So Cornbread says, hey, are you gonna let me in? And Annie says, what do you mean? You've been coming and going as you please. Why are you asking for permission to come in here? And he's like, well, because it's rude not to. That's just rude. And so they begin to realize, wait a minute, you're doing what Remick did. Why do you need permission to come in here? And, he's pleading with Smoke to get him to come in. And Smoke says, this is weird. You have been coming in and out all day. And he says, well, I came with Stack. And he says, well, Stack's dead. He says, well, how am I supposed to get home? He says, that's not my problem. He says, all right, well, can you pay me? And he holds his hand out. And Annie tells Smoke, be careful. And Smoke goes to pay him, and Cornbread snatches him. And essentially, Smoke shoots him in the face and blows out his whole jaw. And we realize that he's a vampire. And Cornbread gets up like it wasn't nothing. But he still hasn't been invited in, so they snatch Smoke back in the house, and Cornbread has to leave, right? So now it's getting real weird. Then once he leaves, we hear a knock at the back door in the room that Stack was in, and it's Stack. And everybody's like, I know we saw him bleed out. What the hell is going on? And he's like, you know what I mean? And he says to him, hey, man, let me in. Hey, let me in. And he's like, nah, bro, I can't do that. And Annie says to Smoke, that ain't your brother. That's not your brother back there. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. And Stack starts to plead with Smoke, saying, "Hey, I'm the same guy that was with you in Germany. I was with you in Chicago when we did that gangster stuff. Like, we've been together, right?" And
Mm-hmm.
once pleading doesn't work, he says, "Look, when I get in there, I'm gonna lay all y'all down for trying to keep me in the closet." And as he's saying this, Annie runs off. And finally, he knocks over the door, runs over Sammy, and Annie throws this garlic water on him, and he runs out. And at that
Mm-hmm.
point, Annie says, "Those are not hates, which are demons, I guess. Those are or zombies. Those are vampires, right?" And so now they
Mm-hmm.
get together and they proceed. They go through their strategy and what have you. And I thought this was almost funny because in this scene they're like, well, no, I'm sorry, they find the guy in the kitchen. They think he's been killed by a vampire, so they drop him outside, and they're like, well, who killed him, right? And they're like, all right, well, we all got to eat garlic to make sure there's not a vampire in here. And so they all eat garlic, and it gets to Delta Slim, and Delta Slim eats the garlic and almost throws up, and everybody's like, oh shit, he's a vampire, and he's like, nah, I'm just drunk. And but I'm good. I'm good, and it's kind of funny. But anyway, um, take me through what you're thinking at this moment in the movie. Give me your thoughts on just what you're thinking in this moment right there.
So, I was wondering what were they going to plan. So I like the fact that they were trying to come together with Annie, and she was telling them everything based on her knowledge of what they needed to be able to combat these new species of things that they were being faced with, because none of them knew anything about it. So the fact that she was able to tell it was great. So they are gathering all of the wood, doing the garlic, trying to bless the water, all this kind of stuff. And then to me, which you haven't gotten to it yet, but the store owner's wife, I can't remember her name, she's like
Uh,
panicking.
Grace Chow, yeah,
Grace.
yeah,
She's panicking, right? Because her husband now is outside. She's wanting to get to him. She's thinking about her daughter, all of this stuff. And even though they came together and got weapons, they didn't have a actual plan on
right,
what they were going to do to combat
right.
these monsters
They
or
didn't they didn't have
vampires.
a strategy.
So at this point, when she decided to welcome them in her going
Hold on,
chaotic.
hold on. Before you do that, let's go back because there's an interaction that takes place that we got to speak on, and that when somebody else comes back to the door and tries to get in, and Remick comes back to them and says, "Hey, you're not getting out of here. Things are already bad. Like the deal that you made with the store owner to buy this, the clan's going to come back
Mhm.
and they essentially took your money. Their plan is to come back." And he says, "This guy was in the clan." He's like, "That's right. They're going to kill you." He's like, "So their plan is
Mhm.
to take your money, come back and take this thing anyway." And then he begins to talk to your point to Grace in Chinese because he read her husband's mind. And again, he says
Mhm.
something that she likes. That's not very nice to say to a married woman, but he says it to her to let her know that he's in her husband's mind, right? And then
Mhm.
the last
Mhm.
thing he says that upset her so much was, if you don't come out here,
Well, I'm gonna get
we're
your
gonna go to
daughter.
that store and we're gonna get your daughter, right? Now,
Mhm.
Ray, I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. I don't care what you say about me, but you threaten my kids, Ray. I'm coming.
Mhm.
I can't even be mad at what she did because I'm not gonna leave you room to do that. If I got to die here and now to protect my kids, and I got to die here and now, let's go. Let's go. Let's bring it. But I'm gonna take you with me. I'm gonna take you with me,
I can,
right? So I
and
get
I can understand that.
yeah, I get what she was saying.
I can understand that.
She messed it up for everybody else though.
But it not just for everybody else. She messed it up for herself because she really didn't know what it was that she was dealing with. Even
Right.
then, when you take it to the aspect of someone being in war, or when you thinking, oh my goodness, they're gonna take over my country. This could ultimately destroy my family. They still go into this attack with a plan. You know what I'm saying? She had nothing. Her I don't know what she was trying to accomplish, and this was just adding on to me, uh, where I felt like Kugler could have did better.
Well,
Where he could have
yeah.
I don't know.
No,
He could have made her a little more rational with her attack. I
you
mean,
know
to
what,
let
Ray?
them in. Mm-hmm.
That's fair. That's fair. That's a fair statement. I'm not gonna. You're right. She could have been, but honestly, Ray, I mean, I see your point, and she definitely got some folks killed. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lie. She and I was she the first to go? Was she the first or the second to go? She went real
She
quick.
was
If
yeah
she
she
goes
was
to
yeah
fire,
she went quick.
she went
So she
real
still didn't save her daughter. So she
right.
still didn't save her daughter's life.
Right. She
So
went
I
real.
mean, you
She
my
went.
whole thing would have been, I understand Lord is, or my baby is over in this house somewhere. I need to get over here to her, but I want to get to her. I can't just
Yeah.
make a
Yeah.
move and not do something that's gonna, actually get me to the place that I'm trying to get to.
No. You know
So
what,
that, I
Ray?
mean, that's just my point.
I see your point. No. 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 And it's a valid one. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm emotional about my kids. So if some dude says I'm gonna do this to your kids, you're not leaving. If you and I got to go, if we got to die this night, then so be it. But you're not gonna get to my kids, bro. I don't care if I got to kill you and 30 other folks with you, and I burn up with you. You ain't getting to my kids. I think that's what she was. I think that's what Kugler was trying to convey is just like the fight or flight response of a mother. Now, Ray, I know you. I've known you for damn near 10 years. You are a pragmatic person. You're a very smart person, but you're also cool under pressure, right? I don't think
Mhm.
Grace was cool under pressure. I think when she heard my kid, she freaking lost it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now you're right. Everybody's not going to respond that way. Because I don't think if you were
Yeah.
put in that situation, I don't think you would have responded that way. I think you would have responded, but I
Yeah.
think you would have waited on smoke to get a plan. I
Well,
think
all of us are, yeah, try to figure it out, try to come up with something better than just come on in or whatever. Yeah. Even if I
yeah.
snuck out the back door, something, something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at
I wouldn't.
when she does this, man, it's like, oh, well, here we go, And true
Yeah.
enough, they get after it. They get after it. And the fight scene is a great one because people are dying, vampires are getting shot, getting burned, getting staked, getting back up. It is a magnificent fight. And Delta Slim, before all this goes down, says, hey, if they're going
House
to get
member.
to Sammy, they got to go through me. And I tell you what this is reminiscent for me of, Ray. And that's when
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is on the cross. Remember, he's next to two sinners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sinner says to him, hey, will you remember me? I did this, I did this. But this sinner is bearing his soul to Jesus, right? This kind of reminds me of Delta Slim because Delta Slim is the only one throughout the entire movie that's like, I'm a sinner. You know what I mean? And he
Mm-hmm.
literally sacrifices himself because he takes on about 30 vampires, right? So he is true to his word. He's like, you know what? Again, when he says to Sammy, they got to go through me, they literally had to go through him. This again is Ryan Coogler foreshadowing things to come, right? So he
Mm-hmm.
sacrificed himself. When I tell you they're on him like piranhas, Ray. They're on him like piranhas. And then we
Yeah.
get the ultimate fight where They go upstairs and open the door, and uh-oh, Ray, there go that man again. It's Remick, and he says, Sammy, all creepy, right? He's in there. They're going at it. I'm gonna be honest with you. First time I saw it, I dropped my drink, and I dropped it, right? And so they're going at it, right? And man, Pearline is trying to help him, and she gets bit. And I was like, well, there goes their relationship, even though she was married. But there goes that. And she's like, run. And I'm like, oh, she really loved him. And so she runs, and then no, I'm sorry, Sammy runs, and Remick grabs him, and there's this ultimate conflict by the water, which is, I think, significant to all of this, is what the water symbolizes, which is renewal, restoring, life, rebirth, right? And then there's the conflict between Smoke and Stack, and it's the final conflict, and it does not disappoint. They go after it. They're fighting blow for blow. Finally, Stack gets Smoke down. Well, first off, Smoke says, man, why'd you have to go and kill Annie? Because, I'm sorry, Stack says that to Smoke. Annie is kind of, I don't want to call her a witch, but she's kind of a witch. And she reads bones, which is a custom in some religions. There was a clear and distinct juxtaposition of Christianity and West African religion. So she's a voodoo priestess, whatever you call her. But in her preparing for their war, she sees that she's going to die. Right? Did you catch that? She sees through reading this, because she says to him, "Look, if I get turned, I need you to kill me." And he's like, "No, I'm not going to kill you. We're gonna," because he loves her, right? But and she doesn't come out and say, "I've seen my death," but it's inferred, because what he says, "I don't give a damn what that voodoo stuff says. You know, I love you. We're gonna be all right." But they weren't all right. He gets turned and he kills her. And so the first thing Stack says to Smoke is, "You had to go and mess it up, man. We could have all been vampires. We could have been here forever. We could have been chilling. Why you do that, man? Why you have to go and kill her?" So then they go after it, right? They get after it. They go through their fight. And Stack has Smoke down. And Stack gets ready to bite him, but he can't. Did you catch that? Did you see why he couldn't?
Because of the little
right. The talisman that he had around his neck prevented Stack from being able to bite him. So now Smoke turns him over, and he gets ready to kill him, and he says, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you." And Stack says to Smoke, "You've been protecting me my whole life." Let me ask you a question. Do you know what he's referring to?
I mean, just from all of from the dad, his dad's drunken ways.
Yes. So he's referring to the fact that Smoke killed their dad to protect him. Right? He says, "Hey, bro, if I gotta die tonight," that lets you know the relationship, the love and respect that they have for each other. Because at this point, he's like, "You've protected me my whole life." You know what I mean? And the camera flashes away, and we don't see what happens. Now, finally, the conflict happens at the water, and Sammy, and this is what most of us do, right? Now, Ray, I'm a preacher's kid. I know you was raised in the church, and I'm gonna be honest with you. There have been some situations that I've been in where I know I was hell. I was a heathen. But when I got him, I was like, "Lord Jesus, if you just Lord God, Jesus,
I promise.
if you just let me get out of this, Lord Jesus, I won't do it no more. Please, Lord God, Lord Jesus, Lord, please." Okay. And this is what Sammy's doing. Because understand, everything that Sammy's dad says to him is coming to fruition in this moment. First thing he says to him before his son, You keep playing with the devil, devil's gonna follow you home. Well, in this moment, Sammy's like, oh Lord God. And he's saying the prayer. He says, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And Remick says, you know what? They said the same thing to me when they came to take my father's land. And he begins to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing is, all of the vampires begin to pray, which is, if I'm Sammy and Ray, I'm just going to say this. I
I'd
would
have
have had
passed out.
I would have had a bowel movement on myself. I would have, I would have, it would have been nothing. I would have been like, oh Lord, oh God. Can you imagine that? This dude is standing with. They said the same thing to me. Guess what? It ain't gonna stop. It ain't gonna stop.
Oh, this
I
ain't working.
would have everything that was in my body would have come out every orifice. I would have thrown up. I would have had a bowel movement. I would have, you're all in one motion. I would have just lost it at that moment, right?
Yeah.
But Remy begins to monologue. And as he's talking, Sam is just like, fail! And deposits this guitar, which is made of silver, right? It's made of silver,
Which is made of silver.
That can kill a vampire. And he
Yeah.
does it, and he's like, oh, dang it. And he's like, I'm still going to kill you. But you and I are going to make beautiful music together. And as he draws back his hand to do it, of course, here comes smoke, stabs him through his heart, and he kills him. And, you know, Smoke and Sammy are sitting there. They're the only two who survive, because everybody else is either killed or turned into a vampire. And they're looking at him with sheer terror, like, please die, please die, please die, please die, please die. Lord Jesus, please let him die, right? And he dies, and he goes up into this fiery abyss or whatever. And the sun comes up, and all of the vampires that are outside are burned, and they die. And Smoke and Sammy say their goodbyes, and Smoke says, hey, man, I need you to be strong. And he's talking to him as if he's never going to see him again, right? And he sits down, and I don't know if you caught this, but as he's sitting there and he's trying to roll a cigarette, his hands are shaking so much, right? And remember, at the beginning of the movie, his hands were shaking, and Stack did something to calm him down. Stack's not there anymore, which is why he's shaking so much he can't even roll the cigarette. So it lets us know, number one, that Smoke suffered from PTSD, and Stack was the one to calm him, right? So he's preparing for the Klansmen to come, and they come, and he opens up a can of you know what, kills every last one of them. But before the battle occurs, he takes off the talisman. Right? Tell me why you think he did that.
Because if there was some type of protection, he was removing that protection away.
Right.
He wanted to be free of that protection so that he can go ahead and cross over to what's her name? Annie.
Right.
So he can cross over to Annie and the baby.
Yeah. He was ready to go at that point. He was ready to go. He's like, you know what? You took my brother's a vampire. You know what I mean? My woman's gone. You know, I got nothing left. All right. After I kill you, Klansman, here I come. And he rips it off. And that is absolutely what happened. He, you know, starts, and the thing about it, he has 3 distinct weapons, right? So he starts with a rifle, a long distance rifle, and he kills about 4 of them, right? Then he comes out with a pistol and he kills some more. Then he goes to get my favorite part. He gets the Tommy gun and just starts letting loose like. And the funny thing is, they show the former owner of the mill. And it's funny because in my mind's eye, I'm thinking, he's thinking to himself, it was at this moment he knew he messed up. Like, he's killing everybody, right? Gets over there, those other clan dudes jump in the car. He's like, grabs the grenade, throws it in there, kills them. One of them gets off the shot, shoots him, and it's just him and the former club owner. And he's like, hey, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. And he's like, whatever. And he kills him. And it's funny because Annie says to him, hey, if you put that cigarette out, I'll let you hold the baby. And he holds the baby. And what does he say, Ray? What does he say to the baby? He says, Papa's here. He says, Papa's here, which is what he says when he initially gets to and he says, Papa's here. So in this way, his circle of life is complete. Because that's the last Papa's here, and we fade out, and that's it. And Sammy comes back and goes into church, and Sammy's dad says, Sammy, put the guitar down, and Sammy doesn't do it. And Sammy's on, for another 60 years or what have you. Now, here's the thing about it. It is said, and I don't know how true this is, right? But it is said that Sammy's character, that the basis for his character was Robert Johnson, okay? And Robert Johnson was a famous blues player that supposedly sold his soul to the devil. So Robert Johnson, and there's a movie with Ralph Macchio called Crossroads, where Robert Johnson has one missing song and he's trying to get it. But anyway, supposedly Robert Johnson sucked initially at playing the guitar, was terrible, met the devil at this crossroads, sold his soul, and then came back a year later and was the greatest guitar player ever. Right?
I remember that story.
So they're kind of when he's saying give me the guitar, there's a lot more going on than just the guitar. Now Kubler doesn't say it and he doesn't prefer it, but it just kind of feels that way, right? So we see driving away, and then we fast forward to October 16th, 1992. Sammy has these claws or this scratch on his face that he got from Remick that stayed with him, obviously. And he's on stage, and then he's in a bar later, and he's sitting down having his drink, and in comes Stack and Mary. And they're obviously vampires, so they hadn't aged a bit. And they sit down, and he says, hey, man, I love all your music. I don't like the new stuff with the electric guitar, but do you still have it? And we see him play a song for them, and they love it. And then Stack does something that we hadn't seen a vampire do before. He sniffs. I'm sorry. Stack does something we hadn't seen a vampire do before. He sniffs Sammy, right? Do you know why he does this?
It was, I guess, reminiscent of the past. He was, I'm not sure. Why he did it.
He sniffs Sammy because vampires can smell death. Remember, they are death. So he sniffs
Your
Sammy.
sound just went out.
Right. Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. He sniffs Sammy. Why?
He sniffs Sammy because he's smelling death. He knows that death is coming from. Remember, vampires are death. So he smells him and he says, you don't have, it won't be long now, right? And Sammy knows what he's talking about. He says, it won't be long now. He said, I made an agreement with my brother that I would never come for you as a condition to him letting me go. He says, but if you want, I can fix it so you don't die. And Sammy's like, nah, I've lived a pretty good life. I'm okay. And Stack and Mary, and he hugs them. He hugs them. You can see that there's still love there, that even though Stack is a vampire and Sammy is not, there's still love there. He hugs them, right? And says his goodbyes to Mary. And then before Stack walks out, he says, hey, let me ask you a question. He says, every week I have a dream about that night. And short of the vampires coming, that's the best time I ever had, right? And he says, was it that way for you? And Stack turns to him and says, yeah, absolutely. He says, it was the last time I saw my brother alive. Yeah, absolutely. He's like, for just a minute, we were free, right? And he walks
Mm-hmm.
out and he ends. And what I thought about Ray, the title of the movie is Sinners. When we're sinning in the beginning, it feels so good before we pay the price, right? It feels so good.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so good to do dirt. It feels so good until it's time to pay the piper. And then when you pay the piper, some kind of way, you never get your money's worth. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what stood out to me, Ray. I thought this was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. What I really enjoyed about it, number one, were the two musical numbers. That's one when Sammy has his guitar and he's singing a song about his dad. I thought that was phenomenal. And then there was the part where Remick is out in the woods and he's singing his song, and there's a beat that's going to it. Man, Ray, I was in my seat like I was dancing with them. Like I loved it. I loved it. I'm so here for it. I thought it was great. Um, I thought this movie was great on so many levels. I enjoyed it. I can understand how, some people may like it, some people may not. I enjoyed it. There were multiple messages. There were multiple meanings. We could debate it for hours. We won't. But I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think Ryan Coogler outdid himself. Um, I'm gonna go back and watch it a fourth time now that you and I have had this discussion because I'm gonna look at it, or I'm gonna try to look at it from your perspective to see, okay, well, what else could he have done? Because now that you and I have talked about it,
Mm-hmm.
I got these things in my mind, and my wife is gonna think I'm crazy because she's like, "You've seen the movie 3 times already. You're such a weirdo," and I'm gonna be like, "Whatever,
And
Kim. I'm gonna look it up."
it's
Huh?
funny that you're saying that it's funny that you're saying that because I was thinking the same thing. Like now that you've done this commentary, I want to go and see it again to see some of the stuff that you just explained because seeing it from your perspective was completely different than where I was seeing it. I guess in that moment, uh, I wouldn't mind, yeah, watching it again. Yeah.
And Ray, that is a beautiful thing because you know what? That's how we figure out this thing called life. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's no wrong answers for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that I took from you. There's things that I took and I learned from you that I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And then hopefully we can do the same. So ultimately, look, we're just trying to get to the point to where we could understand it. But I really appreciate you joining me. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that this was fun. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Got to do a little housekeeping. Mike says your wife was thinking, "Oh, this is why I'm watching this movie so much." Mike, I'm gonna tell her you said that. I'm gonna tell she's gonna laugh. I'm gonna tell Mike is funny, right? You don't know Mike, but he's hilarious. Monte Carlo, the floors being clean at the beginning let me know the double cross was coming. You know what? Carlo, I didn't think about that,
That
but
makes
you're right.
sense too. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. Mike says maybe you should lean into movie breakdowns. Hey, man, maybe. You never know.
Yeah,
I
you broke it down well. You did good.
We broke it down well, right? It was a
Yeah.
team effort. We did. Could not have done it without you. Could not have done it without that. This was a we thing, y'all. But Ray,
Got
I appreciate you joining me. And look I would love for you to join me again the next time we do this because we're gonna do it again. And now that we've
yeah.
done it, you know what I mean? You gotta come back because hey, this is your podcasting home now, and you can always come home.
Okay.
So you gotta
Thank
do
you.
it.
Thank you for
But
having me.
no.
Thank you for
I
having me. It was fun. It was a great
thank
experience. This
thank
was the
you for
first
coming.
time on a podcast, and I enjoyed it. It was cool.
Well, let me tell you something. You did great. I can't tell it's your first time. I don't think anybody in the chat can tell it's your first time. So you're a great actress as
Okay.
well, Ray. How about that? So give yourself some credit. Ray was a little nervous in the beginning and all sitting up and uncomfortable. And look at you now. You a whole podcast veteran. Yeah,
I'm
you
so
got a
silly.
podcast under your belt. Look at you. You've done it. No, but in all seriousness, I cannot thank you enough. Everyone in the chat who joined us, thank you. Everyone watching who joined us, thank you. Look, the goal was to have fun. And guys, if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and check it out. It's a wonderful story. It's a great movie. I enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best movies I've seen in the last 5 years. And I hope and pray that Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan and really any appropriate cast members win an Oscar for this, because I really think it was an Oscar-worthy performance. But again, Ray, thank you so much for joining me. I want to thank you. I appreciate this. To everyone in the chat, thank you. I want to thank God for waking me up this morning, giving me the ability to do this podcast, giving me this podcast. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Also want to thank Mr. Eric Parker, Mr. Jack Spade for giving me my start in this business. Thank you, Miss Terry. Thank you, A1 from day one. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Scott Carisic. Thank you, John from Out of Your Falcon Mind. Thank you, Big Low. Thank you, Eric Parker, my brother. Thank you, Bodie 3000. I'm forgetting somebody. Thank you, Uncle Steve. Did I say A1? Thank you, A1. Thank you, Smitty. Thank you, Berto. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. And look, if you want to see more content, you can come check me out at For My ATL Sports 1 on YouTube. Again, that is the number 4, My ATL Sports, the number 1 on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe as I am trying to grow my channel. And the more you like, the more you share, the more you subscribe, the more we get introduced into the algorithm, and we can bring you content like this. Look, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Go see Sinners. Be safe. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll see you when we see you. Thanks, everyone. God bless. Good night.
Thanks.